civic space, and leaving no one behind. Civil society actors, or CSAs, are essential in promoting democratic values and supporting marginalized communities. However, they are facing increasing restrictions. In this video, we examine 5 ways in which civil society actors respond to restrictions to continue supporting the most vulnerable, especially in fragile and authoritarian contexts. But first, what is civic space and why is it important? Civic space refers to the capacity of civil society actors to operate freely. It encompasses the legal, political, and social conditions that enable individuals and organizations to express their views, assemble, and engage in advocacy without fear of retribution. Civic space is not static or uniform, as the ability for CSAs to maneuver can shift over time and vary context to context. According to the latest Civicus report, today nearly a third of the world's population lives in closed civic spaces where governments and non-state actors employ various strategies to restrict CSAs. These include the enacting of repressive laws, using derogatory labels to delegitimize CSAs, and even resorting to violence and intimidation. Such measures aim to control and limit the influence of CSAs, particularly those involved in human rights and political advocacy. This phenomenon is commonly referred to as the shrinking of civic space. In fragile and authoritarian contexts, the shrinking of civic space poses significant challenges. According to the OECD, fragility refers to those contexts exposed to diverse risks in which the state and communities lack sufficient coping mechanisms to manage them. Although it is traditionally associated with various forms of conflict and violence, it includes other risks that affect people's livelihoods, such as inequality, poverty, and environmental shocks. In fragile contexts, the bond between the state and society often weakens. This happens when the state can't provide services and people don't follow laws or fulfill their roles. This disruption affects the community deeply. In these situations, CSAs step in to help. They provide emergency aid, deliver basic services, identify local conflict causes, and support displaced communities, making them an essential component to achieve the leaving no one behind principle. However, the state often distrusts these efforts as it tries to maintain its authority. As a result, in fragile contexts, CSAs often encounter increased control and regulation, making their work even more challenging. Based on relevant literature, we identify 5 strategies for CSAs to adapt and continue their work towards the most vulnerable when facing increasing restrictions. Number 1. Rebranding towards service delivery. Shifting temporarily their focus from advocacy to providing essential services can help CSAs boost their legitimacy at a local level, draw attention to underserved communities, and open informal communication channels between citizens and the government. Although this strategy is sometimes criticized for disengaging from democratic discussions and aligning to the state's interests, it can open some avenues for CSAs to influence public policy and contribute to improve interpersonal trust, which is needed for potential social movements. Number 2. Broadening alliances. Looking for potential partners outside CSA's comfort zone can help them increase their local and national influence and gain some protection. For example, reaching out to the private sector to fight against laws that could affect trade unions and the reputation of the country as a place for business. Number 3. Betting on advisory roles and local relations. When CSAs cannot safely act as government's watchdogs, they can offer training and collaboration to authorities on less contentious topics as a first step to building trust relations with the government. This could be via the organization of activities that reach local and regional authorities first. Number 4, making vulnerable communities visible through data collection. Fragile contexts are known for the lack of in-depth information on populations in situations of shock. CSAs represent powerful sources of information, providing contextualized data on issues hard to capture through statistics, as well as from underrepresented populations. For instance, working with displaced populations who are often on the move, organizing roundtables, and testing different methodologies with them, such as videos and listening clubs. Number 5, engaging in strategic litigation. In fragile contexts, CSAs many times provide legal services and initiate legal action in favor of vulnerable groups whose rights are restricted. These activities draw attention to highly sensitive topics and can change public discussions towards marginalized groups such as women, refugees, and gender minorities. Donors play a crucial role in supporting CSAs when facing fragile conditions. To better support them, first, they must move away from project-to-project funding and bet on long-term engagement that includes institutional and capacity-building activities for CSAs so they are ready for action when fragile situations de-escalate. Secondly, long-term support must be combined with flexible programming. Donors should adjust their grant modalities to help CSAs to respond to emergencies on the ground. Supporting CSAs also means that donors must trust them and grant them creative control and ownership. Regarding which activities to support, service delivery can be a good opportunity to foster local engagement of CSAs. However, this should not replace the support for advocacy and other types of activities traditionally championed by CSAs. Likewise, CSAs do not have to act alone. Donors can push and support networks and coalitions that create a unique space of dialogue and collaboration. Finally, donors must prioritize risk management and context analysis to understand and monitor the challenges and shifting conditions arising for CSAs. This can help CSAs to take advantage of windows of opportunities for action in a timely manner. By recognizing the interplay between fragility and civic space, we can develop better support mechanisms for CSAs. This ensures that they continue their vital work towards leaving no one behind, even in the most challenging contexts. For more information on civic space and the promotion of resilience in fragile contexts, please visit the Refract Project's website.